Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Tom Stewart. Boo.
What was his name?
I'm with Liz. Okay. And this is,
I'm Liz Trotter,
yeah,
and we are on Smart Business Moves today. This is my partner, Tom Stewart.
thank you, Liz. You need to be doing that from this point forward.
No, we both know that I'd be messing it up more than that.
Oh, what a day. What a day.
Nice to see everybody today. I'm hoping that we're going to have a bunch of people here talking about KPIs, profit. I've been getting a lot of feedback, positive feedback. I was telling Tom before the call, because he's always sort of a doom and gloom. We got to do better, Liz. We can provide more value. We can.
Well, we can, and we are.
No, you're right. I'm not arguing with you, Tom. You absolutely are right. I'm looking forward to what we're going to be talking about today. I know we're going to be talking about some more actions, more things that people can do. But I am also really curious to hear today. People have been this has been a week. Today will be a week, 5 full days of KPI conversations around this one little number. And so I'm curious what, if anything, people have actually done, changes that they've made. Linda yesterday said that she had gotten hold of her insurance company, remember, and is saving $3,000 a year. I'm like, yay, awesome. And I'm curious what other people have done or are doing.
So just
You're not you're not curious about that, Tom? Come on.
I'm very curious. My mind was somewhere else at the moment. Something popped up on my screen. They're having an insurrection at the Capitol earlier today. Did you hear that?
No. What happened?
Evidently, a bunch of people rushed the Capitol, got inside the Capitol. They had to evacuate the whole Senate thing when they were getting ready to. I mean, it seems like it's a hot mess. And I know that's not really what we do on this show, but.
Well, we always do a little bit of current events. You know, we had Alonso on here quite a while, helping us with Black Lives Matter stuff. And
I'll share one thing today that we were working on a little bit that ties into COVID. You know, you guys are familiar that the
Facebook user that's been watching all day and keeping your opinions to yourself. Tell us your name, because what do they have to do to get us to know who they are, Tom?
Just type their name in, because they're coming in from some group that doesn't share who they are.
Okay, type your name in. All right, go ahead, Tom.
You know, the employee retention credit that we are now going to be able to get in addition to the PPP.
Yeah.
In order to qualify for that for 2021, you only have to show a 20% diminution of income compared to the same quarter in 19. So what that means is they're going to compare how much revenue you generated first quarter of 2019 to the revenue that you generated first quarter of 2021. Okay. The
21? Thing 19 to 21?
Correct. Because they don't want to compare it to 20, because 20 is not really a fair thing, because your revenue would have been down there. They're assuming that the last first quarter that you actually had a legitimate business that wasn't impacted by COVID would be 2019.
Oh, okay. I've
been working with Joe and Matt on this, and we've been doing a lot of research, and that's kind of the way it goes down. The interesting thing about that is we are really early in 2021, right? First quarter.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to get your income below 20%, you've got some control. And I'm not coaching. I'm not suggesting. I am just pointing out.
AdWords off. Yelp off.
So if you do the arithmetic and you say, okay, well, this is you know where you were in 2019, right?
Right.
So you can kind of do some forecasting and projecting and kind of seeing, you know, I would look at what your revenue was fourth quarter of 2020. That's what we were doing.
Yeah.
and kind of using that as kind of a benchmark of do we really think that we're going to do materially better first quarter of 2021 under all the circumstances? And if your first quarter revenue is trending to where it's going to be like 18% less than what it was in 2019, you kind of
make sure that sales are showing up in the right month and all of that. But so I'm still a little confused, Tom. So it's going to be first quarter of 19
compared to first quarter of 2021.
Or second quarter to second quarter, third to third, fourth to fourth?
Well, I think it only goes through second quarter right now. No, okay. It might be extended further than that, but I don't even think anything goes past second quarter at the moment.
So people would be wanting to use first quarter for sure, because most people's numbers are going to be much bigger first quarter of 2019 than second quarter.
So Facebook user Sarah Mitchell.
Yeah.
So Sarah has been watching TV, I guess, watching the thing.
She's keeping her opinions to herself. I love that she's keeping her options to herself too. That's awesome.
Good. That's good.
That's great, Sarah. Freudian slip right there. Hey, Denise. Nana 10.
Wow. Somebody died?
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Oh, I'm sorry. I digress.
Yeah, Sam, KPIs are way better. I'm with
you. Way better. Well, we'll be sharing more about this. It's still real early in terms of how these tax credits are gonna work, but it has the potential of being up to $7,000 per employee, but you can't double dip with the same weeks as you're doing your PPP. And most of the banks that I know really aren't even ready to start doing second round of PPP yet. So we need to figure all of that out. But one of the things that you might want to do is go back and look at what was your revenue Q1 of 19 and compare it to Q1 of what you think 21 is going to be, and kind of think about that as well.
Do the math there.
Yeah.
So Nana is looks like she didn't start her business until June of 2019. So this might not even impact you.
Right now, I have no idea how that would work.
Yeah. Right now, I'm guessing it wouldn't impact her at all.
And I guess the other development that's happened in the last 24 hours, again, it looks like that both of the Democratic senators in Georgia are going to win, which will give Democratic side control of the Senate. And it seems like a foregone conclusion that there's going to be another round of stimulus or more money coming out. So to think that some of that's not going to affect how the benefits to small business is going to work would kind of be, hard to fathom as well. So, who knows what's going to be coming at us, but
stuff. So money's going to be coming. Something's going to be happening to us.
The 2,000 checks, for individuals seems like that's going to be coming out, and that that's got a lot of weird implications. For some people, it might be an opportunity to retire for a couple of months. So it could have, a negative impact on our labor market.
I'll tell you what, I know people in my company that would be looking at taking that option, especially some of the people, like one woman I'm thinking of that has 4 kids that are homeschooling. Mm-hmm. She would love to not be at work.
Okay, well, more stuff.
More stuff to think about, but same as last year. Really, everything that's coming at us ever since it first started is looking good. Like it's everything is more on a positive note than on a negative note. So that's super exciting, which is why I'm glad we're doing this, Tom, because we're all going to have more profitable businesses. And here's another thing. All right, Sarah, let's do KPIs. Happy talk.
Okay, red numbers, green numbers, we know that. And the thing that we're going to be continuing to drill on today is how are we impacting our direct payroll to revenue, loaded direct payroll to revenue. We actually played with some numbers yesterday. We had a sample P&L from a real company, actually, and we're showing how you can go into QuickBooks and compare week over week, taking the paychecks that are going out Friday and comparing it to the revenue that was generated the week prior to get your payroll to revenue. And if you can do that with just gross pay, and if you know what your percent labor load is, and we showed how to calculate that, you can just apply that to get your loaded direct payroll to revenue, and there you got it. So then you're just tracking it week after week, and then you put your plans together in terms of what are the things that we're going to do to drive that number down. And that is really the potatoes of what this is about. And in order to get the loaded direct payroll down, you can do several things. And honestly, this list here could probably be longer, and maybe we'll give some thought to that. And as time goes on, I'm sure it will become longer, because this isn't exhaustive by any stretch of the imagination, but it's enough to illustrate the point.
I kind of like it this way, Tom, similar to how we would focus first and strongest on cost of goods sold, lowering that number and getting that whole thing down. These are the main things that are going to make the big difference here for this number too. So it makes sense to me that we focus on these four things and then move on to the big 3, 4, however many things for like the next KPI, because there's always going to be a bigger list, but we got to do the things that are going to make the most impact.
And you know what we're doing here? We're basically building a list. So that's really not the end of anything, right? I mean, that's kind of when you're starting a project, or you're improving something, or you're building something, you start with the list, but building the list in and of itself really is nothing more than a list, right?
Right.
This is the easy part, folks.
Absolutely. Everybody, I'm sure everybody on this call or on this Facebook Live can attest to the fact that, boy, list is easy to build, but then how many times a week later you're like, wow, the only things that are no longer on that list are the things that a monkey could have done. Dang, that's all I did. I didn't do any of the hard stuff. I did all the easy stuff. So got to do the hard stuff.
But, as we move forward, and I'm talking about, the weeks ahead, we're going to be working on to, okay, we got a list. Now, what do we do with it? It's get into the hows and the who's and the whens, and that gets a little more complicated. And, the numbers are part of it. The KPIs are part of it, because you got to measure what you're doing. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. But you can have a ton of numbers, and that's all you got is numbers, and nothing changes. You just, it's kind of like waking up. It's kind of like waking up in the morning and asking what the temperature is. You got the number, but you're not really changing anything. You're just kind of, it's a difference between, think of it this way. You can either let it happen or you can make it happen. And I think, a lot of times you can have the numbers, but you really aren't making anything happen with it. You're just kind of measuring what you're letting happen. So how are we going to do that, Liz?
And in the 40X language, the 4 disciplines of execution language, they would call that, just lead measures, just watching the numbers afterwards and seeing what they are and not actually taking control of them. And then they would talk about the activities that you're doing to impact those, the things that you're going to actually do to change those numbers and make an impact. Those are called lead activities. So those are the things that have to be done to take control of that number, like you said, Tom, and be in charge of it, make it happen instead of just waiting and looking and measuring. Measuring is good, but it's not enough in and of itself.
And sometimes it does happen, but you didn't make it happen. It was an accident.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're just accidentally successful,
Mhm.
but we're gonna help us get beyond that. But to get kind of back on track of where we were the other day, we talked a fair amount about reducing the labor load, and this really can have a material impact on
Yes.
your cost of goods sold, getting that down, which makes your gross profit bigger, getting back to the whole P&L model. And the more gross profit you have, the quicker you can cover your operating costs, your fixed expenses, if you will, and the quicker you can start making more profit for the rest of the month to actually make more profit off of the work that you're doing, the homes that you're cleaning.
So Tom, if I want to reduce my labor load, right? I recognize, okay, I agree with what you're saying, but I can't do all of this stuff, right? It's like too much to do and I don't have time and I'm trying to run a business here too. Are there certain things that you think are the most impactful? The things that I should focus on first?
I hate to give this answer because I give this answer a lot, but it's an honest answer. It's a good answer. It's the best answer.
Yeah.
That's situational from business to business.
Okay.
It really depends. It's like one solution doesn't fit all, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like saying, what's the best shoe size, right? And that depends how big your feet are, right?
Or it depends on how much you weigh or how tall you are.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're 5'1", the best shoe size is not 13.
Or, it's like saying, I'm sick. What's the best medicine? Well, it really kind of depends on what's wrong with you, right?
What's your sickness? Yeah, absolutely.
So you almost have to do a diagnosis. I can say, regardless of where you are, there's a couple of things over here on the right you want to do that really are low cost and easy to do. We talk about low hanging fruit, right? You can't do everything, but what's easy?
Yeah.
It's really easy to build a relationship with your insurance agent where you probably want to reach out and kind of set a schedule and just make sure that you're chatting with your agent maybe once a quarter. And it just, this is what's going on in my business. This is what I'm doing. A lot of times, if you just kind of share what you're dealing with, what you're struggling with, what your plans are, your agent's going to hear things and say, well, you might need a policy for that, or we may need to change something over here, or I think I might be able to save you some money there. They don't even know because they don't even know what you're doing. So you need to make sure that they do. And secondly, the loss runs are important. And
so there are a couple of things that are the first things to do. Get in contact with your agent and begin creating a relationship, understand how that can work, and then get your loss runs, right? I mean, those are like pretty much everybody should be doing a version of these two things. Yeah.
I would say, I would, yes, no question about it. Absolutely. And you're not giving up a lot of time. I mean, it's just really a matter of having the discipline to schedule that. And you can do both of those things within, 4 hours a year, and you can address both of those things.
All right. So Facebook user that wants to know your top KPIs that you look at weekly to monitor your business. If that's Sarah,
Okay.
then great. But if you're not Sarah, the only Facebook user that we know of right now is Sarah. So if you're not Sarah, let us know. But Tom, did you have an answer for that?
I hope it wouldn't surprise anyone now if I said loaded payroll to revenue would be one of them. No surprise, right?
No surprise.
There's 3 that I think are really important. That's good for everybody to track.
It's Robin this time.
Oh, okay. Hey,
Hey,
Rob.
Glad to see you. I wondered where you were.
I think it's really important to also measure your attrition rate for your recurring service sets, recurring homes. That you want to know on a monthly basis, what % of your recurring homes are you losing? For example, if you have 100 homes that have some recurring frequency. They get cleaned every week, every other week, so on and so forth. And on the average, you lose five homes, recurring homes a month, then your attrition rate would be 5% a month. And there's a ton of things that you can do with that. And that's a separate discussion, but that's an important number to track. And is that a red number or a green number? Red number, right? You want
Well, we
that.
want that number to go down. So all red numbers have to go down. So it has to be red. We sure as heck don't want to be losing more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Red number.
And a third number that's really important is what's your gain or loss on weekly recurring revenue. And this is really, a function of, it's a sales function, but it also kind of looks at your loss as well. And you look at those numbers separately. How much recurring revenue did I add to my schedule? Did I sell each week? When I say recurring revenue on a weekly basis, that means if I added a weekly home and keep the math simple, and they're paying $100 per job, that's $100 per week. That's $100 in weekly revenue I'm getting every week, because every week I'm cleaning them and they're giving me $100. If I added a home that I clean every other week for $100, that's $50 a week I'm getting, because I clean them this week, I get 100. Next week, I get nothing. The following week, I get 100. It averages out to be $50 a week. So tracking that recurring revenue on a weekly basis that you're adding to your schedule is like an annuity. Now you lose some of that as well, and that gets back to the attrition number. But you want to have a healthy number where you're gaining a certain amount of recurring revenue every week.
I think most people look at that number monthly, not weekly.
Well, that's an option. For me, and we translate it into monthly to go into the KPI number.
Yeah.
But we look at payroll to revenue weekly. Those are kind of, those are the numbers that you want to be driving. And by the time you get to the end of the month, if that number's not where you want it to be, I mean, you've lost a lot of opportunity. So we believe that you want to be jumping on that faster than if you're out of alignment, you want to be tracking that on a week-to-week basis.
Well, Tom, because of that, and you saying that about watching weeks, our workbooks, our MMA workbooks used to be only daily and monthly, but we added a weekly summary so that people could see what they're doing. I mean, they could fill it in weekly too, obviously, but seeing the weekly numbers, for me, has been really helpful. But it's kind of new in my world. I always did sort of a daily thing and then a monthly thing, but I like the weekly.
It's really interesting, the whole cadence of, there's some things that make most sense if you do it on a quarterly basis, some on a monthly basis, some on a weekly basis, some on a daily basis. Rockefeller habits, I guess, is kind of a whole philosophy that gets into that. And once we get deeper into this and get a little further down the road and we start getting beyond the list, beyond the what's, and start talking about the hows, I think that would be useful if we could share, what are the cadences to get into managing these various processes that make the most sense, and how do you do that? How do you create the accountability? How do you drive the results?
Yeah, that is super important if you're going to actually make the changes, especially once your business gets bigger. A lot of times some things are easier when you get bigger, but some things are harder. And one of the things that's harder is keeping things moving forward if you're not the one doing them all. It's easy to keep yourself moving forward, but how do you keep other people moving forward? Oh, Linda, you got an answer for Linda's question here, Tom?
Yeah, I do. Employment practices liability insurance, $25,000 level of coverage, and for an extra $335, she could double that to $50. Want to know what the norm is in the industry? I have no idea. I'm not even sure what percentage of companies carry this insurance. I personally think it's very important, but Liz will tell you I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to, but I can also tell you the bigger you get, the more you have, and the more you have, the more you have to lose, and insurance becomes more and more important to you. Employment practices liability insurance. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that protects you with. Hiring practices, discrimination, EEOC stuff. Let's just say you have some type of accusation in your company. It doesn't even have to be founded, but if you have an accusation of where you did a wrongful termination or there's some accusation of sexual harassment, and it doesn't mean that you personally even had to be involved in it, but you could have the accusation, but it could be one person in your organization who misbehaved and did something. You're still liable because these people are working in your business, and you're responsible on the job. You're responsible for the activities, everybody that's working for you. And if it's some basis for that you really need to defend yourself, and you need to, this insurance is, will cover for the attorney's fees, and will cover, if it winds up going to trial, you're talking bunches of money. And $25,000 when it comes to litigation doesn't go very far. I kind of tell you that $50,000 doesn't go real far either. We've got a lot of businesses, and we've been doing this for a while, and we've had all kinds of, lawsuits, various forms of fashion over the years. And it's not hard to spend something that's over $100,000 or more. And, you start off, we could spend a whole hour talking about this, but a lot of times there's the whole activity of arbitration. You have to go through that before it goes to court, and the plaintiff is making demands, and the defendant is giving counter offers, and the plaintiff will start off asking for like $5 million, and the defense would come back and offer.
You can tell Tom's a little passionate about this. Been sued a time or two, Tom?
I'm sorry?
Have you been sued a time or two?
I could write a book on this.
Yeah. So Tom, I'm going to ask a question about this. So then I'm thinking that the answer for this would be something along the lines of, you need to know what your gross profit number is first, so that you know how much money you have to be able to work with your expenses. And then look at what you want your net profit to be and see if you can afford this insurance. But you would say it's valuable if it's affordable, right? And depending on the size of your business. Yeah.
And I would just kind of figure out, I would, you know what? A really good answer here is to ask your agent what your agent would recommend for a company of your size and what you are doing.
Going back to your agent as your partner.
Right. And what do other companies of my size that you represent, what do they do? Ask them, what is your experience? Give me some examples of why I would want this insurance, how this insurance is going to protect me. Give me and what type of dollar amounts in terms of coverage were necessary. That would be the way to do it. Because honestly, that's the way I do it. It's like, I don't know, how much coverage do I need? Give me an example of why I would want more coverage. And they explain and go, yeah, it makes sense. Go ahead and let's bump it up.
All right, Sarah's got a question here too for you, Tom. Yeah.
Can you
show the formula to track attrition?
Or
maybe explain it or put it on a spreadsheet or.
This is customer attrition.
Play that game.
I'm sorry?
Play a game with us, Tom.
We're going to play a game. We are. Let's do this.
There we go. Tom just went into heaven right here, right? He's like, ooh, spreadsheet.
What you want to do is at the beginning of the month, you want to know what your number of recurring homes are. Okay. So let's pretend the beginning of the month, you've got 247 homes that have recurring service, okay? And let's say at the end of the month, you've got 253. You've actually gained some, okay?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
the average would be this guy plus this guy, and okay, divided by, I could have used the average function too, but I'm hard. It comes out to be 250, okay? So and the other thing that you want to do is you want to track the number of recurring homes that leave your service. And it could be for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. I know some people that do this and say, well, they moved, so that doesn't count. But
Or they died. So you don't have that.
Was it your fault or not, rather than saying you did a bad job of cleaning their home and they fired you? I mean, any way you slice it, it really doesn't matter. You're not cleaning them anymore. So if they died, if they moved, or if they fired you because they weren't happy.
How about being on hold?
Do what?
How about being on hold?
On hold, where they are saying, for the next 3 months, don't put me on the schedule.
Yep.
This is kind of the finer points of where you can make a determination how you want to do that in your business.
Okay.
For us, they come off the schedule. If they're dropping, because sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't come back. And if they don't come back, they stay there forever. And it's just for us, it's cleaning. And plus, I'm not cleaning them anymore. So for planning purposes, if they say, take me off the schedule for 3 months, well, for the next 3 months, I need to know that actually that's a recurring home I don't have. So it's easier for us just to take them off. And we'll set a reminder within Made Central to say, hit them up, 2.5 months from now, and ask them if they're ready to resume their schedule in 2 weeks.
Okay, sounds good.
Because the other part of it is, I'm going to take their team and their slot, and I'm going to put another home in there. So when they come back in 3 months, they don't have that Tuesday morning slot with team number 14 anymore. More than likely, somebody else, is in that slot. We're going to start them all over again with another team another time.
And also, I mean, for me, I would rather have this number be smaller and be wrong and end up having more money and having a better retention than I think, than doing it the opposite way. I don't want to be living in la la land thinking, oh, everything's fine and dandy, when the reality of the situation is, where's the money?
Well,
right?
Yeah, and we've got so many other reports and KPIs that kind of pull into that, and it gives you a lot of misleading outcomes. Even what your revenue is going to be in months out. Even if you cancel the jobs, it's still kind of, it misleads you in terms of you've got more recurring service sets that are active than you really do.
Right. The misleading thing is the part that I'm like, it's not good. All right. So take your lost homes.
You need to know the number of lost homes you have in a month. And, if your software tracks that for you, it's really easy. If not, no big deal. Just get yourself a whiteboard, and every recurring home you lose, just, write their name on the board. At the end of the month, add them up and pretend this month that you lost 12. Okay. Yep. So the monthly attrition, monthly home loss rate is the number you lost divided by the average of the ones that you had, and it's 4.8%. Says 5, but it was 4.8. So it's real easy. Hey, Liz.
Hello, my cat. She's like, pay attention to me, or I'm going to kick you out of the show. All right. So 4.8%. So that's the attrition. Okay.
Yep.
For that month. Does that make sense, Sarah? Is that what you're looking for right there? I'm guessing it is, but.
Okay. Did we do an adequate job talking about reducing the labor load? I think we did.
I feel like there is a lot. Okay, good, Sarah. I feel like there's a lot of good information about reducing the labor load. If you are still of the mindset that you don't have any power and you can't reduce your labor load, then sorry, call me. I'll give you some one-on-one coaching. But really, so many things right here, right? There's 14, 16 different activities, things that you can do to reduce your labor load. So my suggestion is pick one. Just start with one, because if you can make this number go down even by a little bit, you're going to be better off. You're going to be more profitable. All right. What's up? What's next up, Tom? I'm excited.
Reducing training expense. Now, yeah. I want to make sure I'm really clear on this. When we talk about reducing your training expense, a lot of times people go to a place where I don't want them to go. I'm not talking about eliminating your training. I'm not talking about giving your people less training. I'm not talking about, taking your orientation program and reducing it and slashing your training budget. I'm not talking about that at all. What I'm talking about is training expense calculated by the amount of money you spend per employee or per trainee, per cleaning professional, times the number of cleaning professionals trained, the number of technicians trained. And you see, I've got the number of technicians trained highlighted here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For a reason, because that's really where the cost is. So you could, where did my spreadsheet go? We're going to play another game.
I'm shocked. With a spreadsheet just sitting right there on your screen. Somehow I had a feeling we might be.
So let's just talk about, we've got the total, expense, and that's a function of what? Per cleaning professionals, because that's what they are, and times the amount that you're the dollar I got that, times the number of cleaning professionals trained. Which one of those two numbers is more important?
Anybody? What number is more important? I wasn't paying attention. I was trying to get my app to update so I could respond to people.
Let's pretend you got a company and the number of cleaning, the number of cleaning professionals.
Real quick, Tom, while you're doing that, I want to hit Sarah's question here about the average is 4%. Looking at the companies that we have worked with through foundations, etc., I would say that number is somewhere in that range when people are running decently, 3 to 4%. But what we find a lot of times is people start hitting that 5% number. It starts getting hard, really hard. And getting that number down makes a big difference. We do know a lot of companies that are operating closer to 2%, which is
your revenue growth and your profitability is profoundly impacted by that number. The difference of it being 4% or 5% or 5% or 6% has a profound impact. I mean, Sarah, you took foundations. You remember the big spreadsheet. We did the what if analysis and played with those numbers. It's huge.
Huge. If you can get that number down to 2%, doesn't sound like a very big deal, right? Going from 4 down to 2%.
And at some point, and this varies by market. This varies a lot by market. Some markets are more transient than others. Mm-hmm. And the actual, clientele that you service, do you service a younger demo that moves around more? The Postal Service will tell you about 2% of the population changes their address each month. So you take that and do it on an annual basis. That's about 25% of the people move on an annual basis. So at some point, you're never going to get to zero. If anybody says that I never lose a recurring customer, they're measuring it differently than what they should be, or what we're doing it, or they just don't know, or aren't being truthful. I mean,
even if nothing else, people die.
Yeah, people die. People move. That some degree, at some point, you're not going to get it below. You start getting around 3% for most parts of the country. That's is about as good as you can hope. You're doing everything that you can do from a controllable standpoint, and you just need to work really hard to keep it there.
And smaller companies can have a much lower number here, you guys, where the owner operator is the one answering all the phone calls, managing the clients directly. That number can be a lot lower. It can't be zero still, but it can be a lot lower. Once you get out of your company and you're out of the day-to-day, that's when that number has to be managed more stringently, because it can get out of control without anybody really paying attention if you don't pay attention.
Okay. So say if you've got a cleaning company and you've got 10 cleaning professionals. And let's pretend, just for the sake of this discussion, that you aren't really adding more teams, you aren't really adding more homes. You're selling, but you're selling enough just to kind of backfill the recurring customers that you're losing. So you're pretty much cleaning the same number of homes, week after week, month after month, so on and so forth. So if you've got like 10 cleaning professionals, let's talk about training in terms of new hires, because that's where the lion's share of our expense is on that. I mean, we should be doing training for our incumbent workforce. Regardless if somebody's been there, 20 years, you should be offering training activities for them. But just to keep this simple, when most of us think about training, I think that we think about the money we spend on, hiring a new person and getting them up to speed. Do you think that's fair, Liz?
I think that's what most people think of. Yes. Tom, I'm going to go turn off my stove real quick, so you're not going to see me for half a second.
What you cooking?
Veggies, and I think they're burning, so I'll be right back.
Go. Okay. So let's talk about annual turnover rate. And do you guys know how to measure your annual turnover rate? Maybe not. Wow, that was fast.
Very small house.
Okay. Annual turnover rate. I know a lot of companies where 300-400% is kind of the norm, right?
I think that especially during the COVID year, people's numbers are worse than other years.
I've seen stats that say for the cleaning industry, 400 is not a bad number. I mean, I think that's not.
I've heard janitorial 400, but I've heard residential cleaning is closer to 250. Don't know, how accurate that is, but that's what I've heard.
Okay, so that would be. We'll do a percentage here, right? So on an annual basis, the number of people I need to train would be that number times I'm going to have to train 25 people just to make sure that I maintain my workforce of 10. Does that make sense, Liz?
Yep, sure does.
You guys got that? Thumbs up, thumbs
Yeah.
down. Questions? Let me know. What do we typically spend to train a new hire? Anybody want to? I mean,
What do you think you spend in your company, or what do you spend? Maybe you've already figured out this number. If you have, great, throw that number out there. If you just want to make a guess, good. I'm glad that makes sense, Diane. Thanks. If you just want to make a guess, throw that out there. How much money do you think you're spending per every new hire that you have? And if you don't know this number and you don't want to make a guess, good. Well, I'm glad you're here today because we're going to help with that. Tom's going to help us figure out how do we get that number? And you want to know that number. He's going to tell us why you want to know that number, how important it is. All right, so I'm not seeing any numbers pop up here, Tom. I'm guessing people really want and need this training.
so what all would be involved in that cost? It would be the salary. I mean, you got to pay. A trainee, you have to pay them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We got a couple of things coming in here. All right, so this is, do you include hiring ads, opportunity costs?
Yeah, we can throw that in. I mean, it's all a cost. It doesn't.
Absolutely.
Not all of that translates directly into what would show up as your cost of goods sold into that number, that payroll to revenue number. But it's definitely all eroding money that's going someplace other than profit.
Yep.
So if you're paying, keep the math simple, $10 an hour, and you're training people for 2 weeks, that's like 80 hours. That's $800.
An hour? Where do you live? 15. Nobody's paying.
To keep the math easy. Okay, $15 an hour times 80 hours. So that's $1,200, and throw your labor load on top of that. That's another 15. You're probably up to $1,500. Is that okay?
Yep, that sounds good. And then let's see, it looks like we have Robin Murphy. I think a younger company will have a higher employee turnover rate than an established company. And then it looks like probably Robin is saying we pay $100 to trainers to train new employees, 5 days, $20.
Okay. But you're also paying, is that a bonus, I'm assuming, on the top of their normal salary?
Yeah. That would be enough money, yeah.
And then they're training somebody, so the amount of revenue that they're generating per salary dollar is going to be diminished because they're not going to be moving. I mean, if they truly are training, they're not going to be working at the same rate, right? At least initially.
At least, yeah, they say yes. Absolutely not for that first week, right? I don't see how they would be. So, and if you do have a way that they are still producing the same amount of revenue while they're training, y'all need to let us know how you're making that happen.
So, I don't know. You throw in the trainer pay. You throw in the trainer pay. You would have to throw in kind of the diminution of income that's going to be generated by them for that 2 weeks.
Yep.
You want to say $500? I mean, we can play this game, but we're kind of getting tight on time. Let's just make up a number and just say it's $2,000.
Okay.
Let's stop right there. I mean,
even if that's all there was just trainee pay and just the trainer, the little tiny $500. Even if that's all there was,
I don't think
there's more.
I don't think many of us think about every time we have to hire a new person. This, $2,000, and that doesn't include, the recruiting expenses, the advertising, the time that you have to go through advertising and vetting and background checks and drug tests and yada yada yada. You could easily slap another $1,000 of expense. It doesn't directly, hit your payroll, right?
Yep.
But we'll just go with that at the moment. But on an annual basis, That's $50,000. That's $50,000 for a company that's got 10 technicians. So they might be doing, I don't know, for technicians generating $50,000 a year, they're doing $500,000 in income. So that's 10% of their top line revenue is going to this training expense. Did I do that too fast?
No, I think you actually did okay. So, tell me, you guys, does it seem like that made good sense right there? That what Tom said was like, yes, you're on board there. I want to point out while you guys are giving me the thumbs up or the not quite, or it's helpful if you don't have it quite there. If you could say like just NQ, not quite. So, and we know when nobody says anything at all, we're like, well, maybe we need to drill on this a little bit more. So give us a yes or a NQ about this. While Tom is talking about that, Diane understood it perfectly. Okay, great. Thank you. That's awesome, Diane. The other thing that I want to point out is a lot of times people will deny themselves this number. So like logically, you can fill all of these numbers in, you can come up with a number. Linda got it too. And it's like, okay, it's $2,000. But then you start doing this manipulative thing in your brain. I know from coaching so many people over the years, you do things like this. Yeah, but they are producing some money, like after even the second day of training, because they know how to do some stuff. Or, yeah, but they're actually, I'm able to book more jobs, so I don't have to worry about if somebody calls out, or you just start doing all of this crazy stuff in your head. And you really have to stop doing that, y'all. This number really is a hard cost to your company. And when you deny that it is a hard cost, you start getting stuck in that place of where's all the money going? This is where the money's going. Get out of the denial land, right? And get real. So let's see. Yes, you can get very detailed, but keep it simple to measure. Yeah, that's great. I love that, Robin, right? Keep it simple. Pick a number, whatever number it is that's reasonable, that makes sense, and use that number every single time. And that will also help you to hopefully be able to let people go more quickly. If you can see this person is not going to work out, why am I going to spend the whole $2,000? No, I'm going to get out of this as quickly as I can. And you know, that's one of the problems that people run into. Also, that'll hopefully help you to hire some better people because, good, Diane says it opened her eyes a lot. Because if you're just hiring people willy-nilly and they're going to be leaving in a month and they cost you $2,000 to bring that person on, are you sure that was good business sense right there? Is that what you wanted to do? Well, it looks like people are really getting this.
And you know, Liz, you've made the statement before, and this resonates. This is really important. You hire somebody, you've got one of two expectations. They're either going to be working for your company 2 days or less, or a year or more.
Yeah.
Anything else in the middle is unacceptable. It's a fail.
Fail. That's a fail for me. Yeah.
So the point that I did up here with the 10, you know, if you all things being equal, if you're not growing your company, if it's just you need 10 people to maintain where you are, then every person you hire, you need to think about that in some regards as a fail. If you had no turnover and your business isn't growing, that's $50,000 more in the bank than what you're making in most businesses at a $500,000 level. If you know they actually are making $50,000 net profit, they're doing well. You just doubled your net profit by making your turnover go away. But you know, taking it down to zero is probably unrealistic. You know, people will leave and move and so on and so forth. But you know, how good can you make that number is the point. And there's a whole lot into that. And I see way too many companies that are hung up on how much they're spending on training. And they aren't even really thinking about the $2,000 mark. They're thinking about, you know, really nickel and dime stuff in the whole scheme of things. It's like,
So yes, it's costing me $2,000 a base cost for every employee, but I can't really afford the $125 that it's going to cost for this amazing program that's going to make this person stay for a year. Instead, I would rather turn those people over and over again and not pay the $125. I'd rather pay $2,000 10 times instead of $125 one time. So that's the value of looking at these numbers.
And if you go back to what we were talking about at the beginning of this discussion, and I'm going back a few days here.
Do it quick. You got 3 minutes.
Profit. We want to be profitable because we want to create better jobs. And the reason we want to create better jobs, there's a number of reasons for that. But if you're creating better jobs, more people are going to want those jobs and more people are going to stay. And when you're able to do that, that training cost goes down, and it is material. It's not only just the training cost, but you've got a more competent workforce. It's going to be providing better service, and your customers are going to like you more, and you're going to be getting better reviews. And that turnover rate, that monthly attrition rate that we were talking about, is it 6%? Is it 5%? Is it 4%? It's going to be lower than what it was because your people are trained and they're staying, so they're just getting better from doing it day after day, and you're building a more valuable business. And it's a virtuous circle, guys. That's kind of the point. And we really aren't even beginning to scratch the surface on how we get this total training number down over the course of the year. And
started there.
we're
You guys just need to understand and agree with us that it's important to get that number down. Hopefully everybody agrees that driving down that training number is material. Yeah? Everybody?
This number here, the number of new hires, the number of people trained, be it 25 or be it 5, you want to drive that number down. I don't know if I've explicitly pointed that out through these discussions. We've got these high level numbers, the red numbers and the green numbers that we, talk about so much over here, that we want to make the green ones go up and the red ones go down. Yeah, that's true. But each one of those numbers has a whole cascading set of other numbers that kind of contribute and drive that. And in time, we're going to get to those, and we're going to help us build out, more logical models. But one of those important numbers is the employee turnover rate. And one of the things you want to be measuring is, well, how many new people did I really hire this month? Did I have to train this month? And how much did that cost me?
And you guys see, that's the number right there, average technician turnover rate, right? Mm-hmm. So got to be driving that number down. Again, it's one of the main things that you need to be looking at, one of the main measures that is out there for you to be paying attention to. It's the reason why they're called KPIs, key, right? Key performance indicators. So these are the things that make the biggest difference.
We are at the top of the hour, Liz.
Aren't we always?
Yes. But
that always happens.
Tomorrow is Thursday. We'll be back here at 5 o'clock Eastern. We'll start back up here with our spreadsheet, and we're going to tie it back into here. And we're going to be telling you about, part of it's a mindset, part of it's a culture thing. I mean, this gets complicated. Well, I don't know. I mean, it is. This is deep. This gets deep. But we're gonna beat on this tomorrow, and I think it's going to be useful. So, I think we're in a good place. You think so, Liz?
Yeah, I do. Yep. I'm glad you got some value there. Robin, I'm guessing you got value since you said thank you. And I know today did go by fast, didn't it, Sarah?
So, I hope you can make it tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern. We'll see you then. Bye, guys.